of you who have come here today to observe this Remembrance Day, and also to those of you who are also joining us virtually. We acknowledge that we've gathered on the traditional territory of the Three Fires Confederacy of First Nations, the Ojibwa, the Ottawa, and the Potawatomi. As we make this land acknowledgement, it is important that we continue to do the work to address systemic and historic injustices that Indigenous peoples have experienced. There are few symbols as powerful and meaningful as the poppy. The little red flowers that covered the battlefields where thousands of Canadians lost their lives during the First World War is now a symbol of remembrance, honoring the service, courage, valor, and sacrifice of those who served in the armed forces during times of war and conflict, as well as peace. This morning, millions of Canadians are proudly wearing red poppies and standing with heads bowed to mark the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in remembrance and gratitude to all of those who fought and served so that we would all have the opportunity to forge a better future that they would never see, but a future they believed was worth the ultimate sacrifice. It's a tradition that acknowledges the exact time and day when the guns fell silent on the Western Front 103 years ago. The world's first global conflict ended at 11 a.m. on November the 11th after 4 years of continuous warfare. It's a tradition that acknowledges the men and women who have served from the battlefields of Europe to the streets of Kosovo, to the deserts of Afghanistan, and who continue to serve our country. We honor those we lost and those who returned home and devoted their energy to building communities where families could thrive. It is up to us to work to ensure that their dream of peace and freedom is truly realized. So let us go forward and continue to remember, honor, and celebrate the courage, the service, and sacrifice of those who did not return home to their families, and of those who did. Let us remember the cost and loss of the families whose lives were forever changed. And let us remember that peace and freedom cannot be taken for granted. The words of English poet Lawrence Binyon, penned more than 100 years ago, still serve as a compelling reminder of the responsibility all of us share in honoring and remembering the legacy of sacrifice of our war dead. They shall not grow old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them, lest we forget. It is now my pleasure to welcome to the stage two students from the School of Dramatic Art who will read short narrations during the singing of In Flanders Fields performed by the university choirs. Zainab Samat and Damon Gittelen. Zainab is a second-year student of the Drama in Education and Community program, and Damon is a third-year student of the Concurrent Education Bachelor's of Education and Drama program here at the University of Windsor.
Northern France, April 26, 1915. 3 farms in succession burned on our front, color in the otherwise dark. The flashes of shells over the front and rear in all directions. The city still burning and the procession still going on. I dressed a number of French wounded. One Turco prayed to Allah and Muhammad all the time I was dressing his wound. On the front field, one can see the dead lying here and there, and places where an assault has been, they lie very thick on the front slopes of the German trenches. The gas attacks can be seen from here. The yellow cloud rising up is for us a signal to open. And all the time, the birds sing in the trees over our heads. The poppies grow between the crosses. Row on row that mark our place, and in the sky the larks still bravely singing fly. Instead of me, the country home. We are the dead. Short days ago we felt dawn, soft sunset glow. Loved and good home. And now we lie in Flanders fields, in Flanders fields. May 10th, 1915. The general impression in my mind is of a nightmare. We have been in the most bitter of fights. For 17 days and 17 nights, none of us have had our clothes off, nor our boots even, except occasionally. And all that time while I was awake, gunfire and rifle fire never ceased for 60 seconds. And it was sticking to our utmost by a weak line, all but ready to break, knowing nothing of what was going on, and depressed by reports of anxious infantry. Take up our quarrel with the foe, with the foe, with the foe, with the foe. To you from burning hands we throw the torch. We yours to hold it high. If ye break with us through time, we shall not sleep, no poppies grow. In Flanders fields, in Flanders fields.
John McCrae witnessed once only the raw earth of Flanders hide its shame in the warm scarlet glory of the poppy. Others have watched this resurrection of the flowers in 4 successive seasons, a fresh miracle every time it occurs. Also, they have observed the rows of crosses lengthened, the torch thrown, caught, and carried to victory. The dead may sleep. We have not broken faith with them.
I would now like to invite David Bidewanowicz, a third-year dual Juris Doctorate candidate in our Faculty of Law, to offer a remembrance prayer. David is also an American veteran, having served in the U.S. Marine Corps.
Perfect time for a flyover. I just want to say thank you. That was beautiful. I am really moved. So like the president said, I'm a third year dual student at the Faculty of Law and Detroit Mercy. I came here from Detroit today. I just barely made it here, but I'm very happy that I made it here. It's a really moving time to be a veteran, whether you're in Canada or the United States, because we've been at war for over 20 years now. Afghanistan just ended in the United States, and now we're moving into a time of peacekeeping. And so with that being said, I'd like to tell a quick story about, before I get into a prayer, I'd like to tell a quick story about, what it means to be a veteran to me. So I had a dream recently, and in Anishinaabe mythologies or folklore, we talk a lot about the little people of the forest. They play tricks on us, they move things around, but sometimes they help us out. And so I had an experience like that recently. I had a dream that I was getting chased by a bear, and when I was running down this trail, I was surrounded by thorny brindle bush that kept getting more narrow as I was going down this trail. And as it kept getting lower and lower until the point where I was just crawling, just barely to get underneath this bush. And at the end of the bush, there was the base of a tree, a stump of a tree with a door. Not an actual door, but a hole in the stump that enters into it. So I thought to myself when I was crawling, I was like, this is maybe the little people will help me out right here. And so I'm crawling, and I reach through that door, and something grabs me on the other side. And it was my Uncle Isaac, and he passed away a few years ago, and he stood, excuse me, I'm getting emotional. He stood me up, and he said, there's not much time, but I've got 4 things I want you to remember. And he said, I want you to remember that you can't just be brave for yourself. You've got to be brave for other people. And he also said, it's not just enough to be in this world. You have to be a part of this world too. And so at that time I woke up. I didn't get to hear the other 2 pieces of advice he had for me. But if I see him again, I'll let you know. But I had wondered what that meant, what that dream meant. And then I thought to myself, my God, these are things that I learned in the Marines. I left for the Marines when I was 18 years old, and I was just a kid. And I didn't know anything about the world. And Native Americans, from north to south, have been part of every war, from Pontiac's Rebellion, the American Civil War, World War I, World War II, Vietnam, all leading up to the wars today. And during those times, there's been a lot of social anxiety. There's been a lot of, people are scared back home. And so what's that mean? You got to be brave for other people. And that's what, that's what being a veteran is all about, is that when we go to serve, we're there to bring comfort to our nations, all of them, Canada, United States, our tribal nations. He also said to me, you need to be a part of this world. And that's about the call of duty, the call to duty. Now, Canada and the United States have not always had the backs of Indigenous people throughout history. But we were still there. Mount Suribachi on Iwo Jima, Ira Hayes, he was one of the flag raisers there. That brought a lot of comfort to the nation. We were still there. And I think those principles apply, those principles don't just belong to veterans. They could apply to any of us. When your community calls you, you need to stand up. When people ask you to speak, you got to say something. Because if it's not you, then who? If it's not now, then when? These are principles that all veterans carry within themselves. So with that being said, I would like to offer a prayer to the veterans. First, I'm going to give it in my language, and then I will repeat it in English. Iwi nama iwen nan mamba sema minwa node win nanin graba gidi nimagom migoech giroegom ogichita jinago gi iajeg nogom iajeg minwa wabong ge iajeg migoech meradog ijeg nong ding ning nong iajeg nibing iajeg shkoding minwa iajeg aking migoech menadog iajeg giwanong wabanong jawanong minwa ipana gishamo nana ishanan daga nungum. We offer our hearts, tobacco, and our prayers. Thank you for the warriors of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Thank you, the spirits of the winds, water, fire, and earth. Thank you, spirits of the north, east, south, and west. Your circulation supports our living. Please, God, repair us all now. Thank you very much.
I would now like to introduce Chris Chang, head coach of the Lancers men's basketball team, who will read the Act of Remembrance.
Act of Remembrance. They shall grow not old, as we that are left behind grow old, as shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
And now we will observe a moment of silence. Thank you.
Commitment to remember. They were young, as we are young. They served, giving freely of themselves. To them we pledge, amid the winds of time, to carry their torch and never forget. We will remember them.
Thank you so much to the beautiful university choirs led by Director Bruce Kotowich. As many of you know, inside Memorial Hall right behind me is a plaque which bears the names of the Assumption College students and personnel who gave their lives during World War II. I will now lay the wreath at the base of that plaque. As I'm doing that, I invite all of you here today to plant your flags into the lawn to honor our veterans. Thank you so much for attending today's ceremony.